Today I'm going to show you how to take body measurements to draft a bodice. If you missed it, on Cool Tools this week, I reviewed 3 different books that had different drafting methods. And what I'd like to do today is show you how to take all the measurements you may need to follow along with me and draft a bodice. Unlike pants drafting, there's a lot more measurements that you need for bodice. So I'm going to run through them. I'm going to start with the horizontal measurements and then I'm going to do the vertical measurements. To show you this, I'm going to work with Dottie, my Dittoform, and if you've been following along with me for any length of time, you know that Dottie and me are virtually identical shape-wise. So this is such a luxury to have, and it's the ultimate in fitting because I don't need to worry about measuring myself, and I can see what I'm doing all the way around. I'm absolutely loving working with Dottie, and it'll make it really easy for me to show you how to take measurements. So the first measurement I'm going to show you here is the cross shoulder measurement. Cross shoulder measurement is from the tip of your shoulder to the tip of your shoulder. And some books show you to take it in the back, across your back. Some say to take it across your front. At the end of the day, those numbers need to match because that's where the end of your shoulder seams are going to be, at the tip of your shoulder. You use that measurement for that purpose. So I'm going to just take my tape measure and I'm going to put it right at the base of my neck, and I'm going to measure from basically from tip of shoulder to tip of shoulder like this, right across the top. You could also do it in the back. Okay, so from tip of shoulder to tip of shoulder, you can measure it like that as well. That's across back, or across shoulders, I'm sorry. The next thing I'm going to measure is the high bust. Now, we don't really use this measurement for drafting. We use like parts of it. We use the front separately from the back. But to get your high bust measurement, you measure directly under the arms, across your back, and then above your bust mound like this. So you want the tape measure to be, you know, sort of at armhole level in the back, and then you want to be up at the top like this. I'm going to just do a slow twirl so you can see. See how it goes straight across the back and then up over the bust in the front. That's the high bust measurement. We don't use that in drafting, but I want to show you that one. Another one is your full bust. So again, you're going to be capturing the fullest part of your bust, and the tape measure goes straight across the back in the back. Again, I'm going to twirl it around so you can see. You want to be straight across your back and across your fullest part of the bust. I want to say that measuring on a Dittoform or a dress form prevents you from squeezing it too tight. You can't squeeze it too tight on a dress form because it doesn't dent in like your flesh does. So I feel like I get a better measurement when I measure my dress form versus trying to squeeze myself into a smaller number when I try to measure myself. So that is your full bust. Another measurement you may want to have for reference is your rib cage or your band measurement. And again, that measurement goes right under the full bust, parallel to the floor, and it looks like this. So you want to get right under your bust, and that would be either your band measurement or rib cage. And then of course the waist. So you're going to measure the waist. Now where you mark your waist, that is going to be the bottom edge of your bodice draft, right? So there's my waist. Now this does not have to be parallel to the floor because your waistline might not be parallel to the floor. So keep that in mind. But there's the waist measurement. The next thing we're going to measure is the shoulder seam. So the shoulder seam is from the shoulder neck intersection to the tip of your shoulder. So from here to here. And then you might want to measure, for reference, your neck, your half of your front neck. So you're basically going to measure around from here to here. Now, if you're having trouble with your tape measure, you can either use a seam ripper or a stiletto. You can walk it and pivot on the curves, and you're holding it firm, with the seam ripper or the stiletto. You can rotate around easier like that to pivot. So half of a front neck, and then bust span. Bust span is the distance between your apex. So I put little pins at my apex. You can see my bust span is about 9.5 inches. Okay. Another measurement that's used is half of your upper chest. That's used to help shape your armhole. So you're just going to be going from here to here, from center front to the armhole. You can also, if you're measuring yourself, go from armhole to armhole and then divide that in half. But you might need that. And then your dart placement is basically center front to your princess seam. Now, if you're working by measuring yourself and you don't have a princess seam marked on yourself, some books will have formulas to help you figure that out. And if you don't have any of that, I would say around 4 inches is a good amount to start with. You can adjust that in your muslin. Okay, so in the back, again, we have cross back. That goes from, or cross shoulder, okay, from tip of shoulder to tip of shoulder. And then upper back, where your shoulder blade area is, from arm's eye to arm's eye, like that. And you might want to do from side seam to side seam at armhole level. Whoops. So from armhole level to armhole level across back. Now, if you're measuring yourself, don't try to measure around yourself front and back. I'd measure the entire band measurement, which is right under your armhole. Then measure the front and subtract that out of the total to get your back. So if you're working with full measurements, you can take your full, band, full bust, band, waist, all of those circumference measurements, take them around your body, then find the front, because you can see where your side seams are, and minus the front out of the total to get your back circumference measurements. That's more accurate than trying to measure your back and your front separately. Okay, so those are all of the horizontal measurements you're going to need. Now let's do the vertical. So neck to side seam. This is one of those problematic measurements I was talking about during Cool Tools. Basically what you're trying to capture is the distance between your neck and your side seam. So it's from here, it wraps around the side to your side seam. And you can see that the tape measure does not want to lay nicely for that. This is another measurement where I would use my seam ripper to create pivots and sort of help me, curve around. Like this, to get around. You can use that to create a pivot. I'm getting 12.5 inches. That's what I got when I measured it the last time, and I think that measurement is too short for my draft. And if you want to see what I'm talking about, check out Cool Tools. I'm going to put a link in the description below so you can see what I'm talking about. There's a couple problematic measurements that caused my draft to be distorted, and that was the first one. Okay, so then side seam is pretty straightforward. You just measure from the top of where the base of your armhole would be, down to your waist. Now, if you're measuring yourself, you can put 2 fingers in there and start there. You want to be about 1 inch away from your armpit, okay, to get your side seam. Okay, and then we have both front and back. We have center front, center back, and then total front, total back. The difference between those measurements are, for center front, center back, you're measuring from the base of the neckline down to the waist. And then for total length, I saw it a couple different ways depending on which method I was using. In the Connie Crawford book, she measures from center front to the neckline. And then in another drafting book I used, it was just straight down from the neck shoulder intersection vertically down to the waist for the total center front. For the total front measurement. And the same thing in the back. Center back is going to be from the back neckline down to the waist, and then neckline at shoulder down to the waist for total back. So here is the second problematic measurement that I think distorted my draft, from tip of shoulder to center front. Now you can see I have a large bust, and even if I slide this over, you want to touch your apex when you take that measurement. If I keep that there and then go to center front, I get about 21 3/4. But I want you to see how much space there is, or contour there is, between the tape measure and my body shape here. I think that's part of the reason why this number keeps coming up too short for me, because it's not really capturing, what the fabric would do if it was actually laying. I think it'd be a little bit closer to me here, my garment. It's not going to stick out that much. So I think that's part of the reason why, if you have a large bust, this diagonal measurement from the tip of the shoulder to center front can be a little problematic. And then you're going to do the same thing in the back. In the back, it's an easier measurement to get because you have a smoother surface here. There is no bust. So again, you're going to be measuring from, center back waist to the tip of the shoulder, like that. And then the last thing you need is tip of shoulder to apex. Okay, that's another one. And then there's one other measurement I want to show you. It appears in this apparel design through Patternmaking, and I found this fascinating because it doesn't use the neck to side seam measurement to find the top of your side seam or the base of your armhole. Instead, what they have you do is they have you put on an elastic. Okay, so I'm going to adjust this elastic so that it's coming around right at armhole level at the side and armhole level at this side, okay, right there. And then I'm going to make sure it's coming straight across the back after I adjust it at the side. Wherever you put it in the front, it really doesn't matter as long as you're getting it in the armhole area. Now notice I'm using a thick elastic, not a 1/4 inch or 3/8, because if you wrap that around your body and get it into position, what it does is it allows you to stick the tape measure through there, and it will hold it against you better than the thin elastic. So what I was able to do is put the tape measure under the elastic, and then from the mirror I could see the number. Pick a tape measure that has the bigger numbers. You know how some tape measures have smaller numbers and some have bigger numbers? Find a tape measure that has big numbers so you can look in the back and you can see what your number is. So my number is 9. and that's what I used for my draft. So that's how I got the armhole depth when I was working out of the Apparel Design through Pattern Making book, and I got a much better shape. I thought it was fun to be able to share with you how to take some measurements if you're going to work on a bodice draft. There's a lot more measurements than you need for pants. That's why I'm including that in this series. Again, I am blown away by this book. I love this book, and I'm going to be using it a lot. So I will be sharing the start to finish draft for the bodice out of this book for Fit Tip Tuesday next week. So I will be sharing the entire process. And if you have any questions or comments about either taking body measurements or the differences between the drafts, please post those below and I will help you. If you're enjoying my content, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel because it helps me grow. And I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join me today. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.